Caddis Maximus here, this time with a review of the Napa Professional Series spiral and straight screw extractors, nut and bolt extractors. These would be the standard extractors that they happen to carry in stock at most Napas. This is also a comparison of the older American-made ones versus the Taiwanese ones. The Taiwanese ones are pretty nice, but there is a distinct quality difference between the older extractors and the newer extractors. And so this review is just to point that out and to basically toot the whistle of the older red pack extractors. And if you guys happen to see them, Napa has a lot of stores and they don't turn over a huge amount of stock, so you would have a decent likelihood of finding these older red ones, which is what I certainly recommend. It's surprising that they charge the same amount for the blue ones as the red ones, but there is a marked quality difference. And to start with those differences, the straight extractors these are the same set numbers, so they're really truly just difference in generations. See 2419 and the 720 set. So the 720 set, which is the straight wall extractors, both the old and the new did come with 5-piece sets. However, on the older American version, they only came with a 4-piece set of the spiral, where on the newer version they did come with a 5-piece set. And it is indeed true, they even only have 4 spots. I thought that maybe I had lost one out of the package, but no, they only mentioned 4 bits. One thing I will mention is the packaging did improve slightly. I mean, you do have a metal eyelet in the package. The other thing I like about the newer one is it's a bottom snap, so you can fold it open and easily be able to retrieve an extractor. And we'll do some comparisons. Let's pull some of these out. Where the older one is just a traditional back style, where it's a little bit more fidgety to get the extractor out of the package. The same situation would, of course, go for the older style. What is interesting is they even, in the older style, you can see where they had a plastic snap here, where this particular set is particularly old. These were both, the American-made ones were made by Danaher. This one actually had a metal snap, and this was real surprising. But let's go and pull one of these out, and we'll compare it with the newer version here. And that's really why I wanted to point out, is it was a bit disappointing how much cheaper the extractors had got. So let's go ahead and start with the straight flute ones. Here we go. So we have the laser etched ones. Those are the American-made ones, of course. It says USA. And then they have the newer generation ones right here. And it just says literally 3/8 drill. You have no other information on it. What is interesting is they're obviously not made quite as well. You can see some burrs where they were rounding off the end. You can see that the taper is a little bit steeper and not quite as long as the taper on the older ones. The reason that's a little bit bigger of a deal is because when you have a longer taper, it's a little bit more reliable of an engagement. The reason being is on a sharper taper, it tends to really get caught up right at the top and doesn't give you a ton of engagement in the bottom of the hole. So the straighter the taper, the more engagement it has, even though you do need a deeper hole for them to properly remove the fastener. These are what I would call a newer generation of these straight extractors, where they're just a taper, and then they cut a kind of a tooth into it. So when it catches the fastener or whatever you're trying to unscrew, it really bites in and tries to raise a big heavy burr to really get a good grip on it. And of course the quality difference would be the same on the spiral extractors. The older Danaher made ones were actually really pretty darn nice. This is a really, really nicely made extractor. Where the newer one is, instead of laser etched, it is stamped, and some people would argue that's a little bit better. What's interesting here is you can see the difference in taper is so much steeper that on this one it's a 19/64 drill for a number 5, where this one's a 17/64 drill for a number 5. And so I found the ones that use the slightly smaller drill to really work a bit better. And of course it has no other markings besides that on it. And if we look at the machining here, we can see that there's all the scalloping and roughness. Just the smoothness of the material isn't quite as good. And we can, of course, see that evidence on the end as well. It also, due to the way this is smushed, it looks like the square on this was actually forged. That's why it has that kind of a little bit of a pocket where this maybe it is. You can see the lines there where this square was machined. So technically this one would be a bit stronger as well. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, where sometimes when they replace a product you assume it's the same, but it's really not quite the same. And part of what brought this up is I had a friend who had a set of the blue ones, and he bought them, and he used this large one and just broke it immediately, which was kind of surprising. I ended up using a proto to get the fastener out. So when it comes to straight extractors, really the Napa Professional, the newer ones in the blue packages, really aren't any better or any different from anybody else's. It really isn't the quote-unquote the good stuff when it comes to these. Only if you happen to run into the older red package ones would I really recommend them. Otherwise, as their extractors sit now, they're basically the same as anybody's, and pretty much buying anybody's extractors from O'Reilly's or AutoZone, you're going to be pretty well set up. And I bring this review up as a point because Napa has always advertised themselves as being a more premium auto parts store, higher quality auto parts, parts that if they have issues, they actually have remanufacturers try to address those issues, and having high quality tools. But it appears the last few years they've really been starting to fall off from that commitment. Anyway, once again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. Catus Maximus out.